and welcome to Radio Waves, a production of Red Apples Media. I'm your host, Kris Poliquin, and you're listening to us on WLBE, My 790 AM out of Leesburg, Florida. And if you're watching us today, you're watching us on Lake Sumter Television. Today we'll be speaking with Lake County Commissioner Timothy Sullivan about the state of the county, and our second guest will be Director of Economic Growth, Mr. Robert Chandler. So first, I'd like to welcome our first guest. Commissioner, thank you for joining us.
Well, I'm glad to be here, and thanks for the invitation.
Oh, you're very welcome. So tell me a little bit about yourself. What got you interested in basically becoming a commissioner, and how long have you been one?
Well, actually, I'm getting ready to start my second term. I was just reelected in the primary, but I'm a long-standing resident of Lake County. I've served as everything from the mayor and city commissioner in Fruitland Park in the 80s to chairman of the Lake County School Board in the early 90s. And my personal background, I've been married for more years than I'm willing to admit. But, have two children and grandchildren, and I also have a 30-year history of working in the United States military, and have spent 30 years with a Fortune 100 company as a sales rep for where I'm a registered investment advisor. So
you've been pretty busy.
My wife says I'm a workaholic, and she's probably correct.
and just from the sounds of it, you're clearly a Central Florida native. So
well, semi. I actually moved here as a teenager, so my wife is a true native, so once in a while I'm still a semi-native.
Okay. Well, you've been here long enough, right. Longer than I have, so I'll consider you a native. So last week was the State of the County address, and a lot of things came out. What are some of the most notable achievements? Because when I watched the video and read up on it, we've actually done quite a bit within the last year.
We really have. The Lake County has done, through diligently planning and trying to focus our energies, and that's from building partnerships toward a strong economy, promoting the county and protecting our ecotourism treasures. We really had a really great year. And from a fiscal point of view, we actually rolled back taxes and at the same time, last year we had the voters support renewing the penny sales tax, which we used those dollars for infrastructure improvements, and so it was a very good year, and so that's going to add to our quality of life in Lake County, which is what really brings people here.
And when you say infrastructure, what exactly are you talking about?
Well, everything from building fire stations and in the area of public safety, that'd be building fire stations, fire engines, those kind of thing. Parks and recreation, that allows us to continue building South Lake Regional Park, which is on the books, and improving the parks that we have. At the same time, we do other infrastructure, the roads and bridges and all along the line. So we really try to plan for those dollars in the area that are most needed to help maintain the quality of life that we know here in Lake County.
Okay. And you spoke of a new fire station. We have a new joint fire station.
We do.
Is that right? Yeah.
And that's one of the unique opportunities that we've seen, cooperating with and Station 90 that we built in cooperation with the city of Claremont. So one, that makes it very cost effective, and two, it serves both communities, both the Lake County residents and the city residents. And that was one of the many things that we did over the last couple of years, where we built programs working with the cities to coordinate our fire services, so that we didn't have someone responding on the other side of the city limits if maybe a city fire department was better.
And it does seem that way. At first, when I first read about it and it said joint, I'm starting to kind of, I don't know, I was a little amiss, because it's like, well, Okay, what happens if there's fires in 2 different areas, something like that? But it seems like you've actually hired more manning for it as well, and there's better equipment, things of that nature. So
exactly, and it's increased response times, right. And that's seen in our insurance ratings and something called ISO. And by having lower ISO ratings, that has decreased what people pay for homeowners insurance. So that's helped our average citizen out there by providing better public safety response times. It's helped us help the citizens of Lake County. So not only from the public safety point of view, but putting a little money in their pocket. So right, and that's something I'd like our listeners to understand as well. We're talking about Lake County, right? Not Claremont, Meldor. I mean, there are a lot of cities that some of these programs are encompassing. Exactly. You know, for the betterment of the county. Again, you may or may not see it in your own city, but we're talking bigger picture. This is, again, Lake County. Well, and what you do by setting up those boundaries and those response times, you're cutting out redundancy, you're increasing response times, and so we couldn't do that without the cooperation of the city. So, we're in all this together, and we're trying to make sure our tax dollars are spent most efficiently and most prosperous to take care of public safety for our citizens. Well, good, and thank you. Well, taxes are taxes. Right. And like anyone else, I want to make sure, I don't mind paying my part, just want to see them put into good use. And judging from what I saw in the state of the county, I'm confident that that you guys are. Right. I really am. And I think the citizens notice that, and by the fact that the renewing of the penny sales tax was like 70% positive for the renewing of the penny sales tax, because they understood that helps on our ad valorem taxes, because those dollars, about 30% of those are spent by people who don't live here, who are passing through our county, using our facilities, using our roads, and so they help pay the cost of some of that infrastructure that we're going to have to keep up with. So right, and you kind of touched base on something I was wanting to talk about anyway, but the tourism for Lake County. I think I read it. We were looking at like 2.7 million or somewhere in that ballpark this year alone. Yeah, 2.7 million. Our what happens is sports and tourism brings people to Lake County. Mm-hmm. So those people stay in our hotels, use our hotels, our restaurants, etc. And so that generates tax revenues. And that was roughly 2.7, which is the highest, 2.7 million, which is the highest it has been. It's ever hit, and the first time it's ever hit that level. And that's a lot. Right. And we use those dollars to enhance. That can only be spent for sports and tourism to help in that regard. We have both infrastructure that we spend on infrastructure to help with that, but also in the marketing field. I mean, everybody knows in Leesburg, for instance, that we have Bike Fest, which brings thousands of bikers to Lake County. That's hard to miss. Hard to miss. But I use that as an example. That's where we participate through our marketing division to help market that, and that helps everybody involved, because as you know, every hotel and restaurant in Lake County is utilized just during that 3-day Bike Fest. For sure. Right. I mean, we are crowded for that little bit of amount of time. And again, it plays in with the penny tax. Right. It's a sales tax. The more people, the more sales and purchases in Lake County or Leesburg for like Bike Fest, more revenue. Right. So. Right. Great point. Okay. So, again, I think we had a lot of achievements. What's down the road? What can we look forward to, and what are some of the big initiatives that you, and we have 2 new commissioners now, what's the direction for Lake County for the upcoming year? Well, I believe that we have to continue to build economically, and what I mean by that, economic development. For the first time in many years, our salaries are as the highest they've ever been. Unemployment is down in Lake County. It's actually the best it's been in 10 years, and we need to continue to build that by And a good example is that one of our legislative priorities last year was to get the advanced manufacturing center that's being built in by the Lake County school system. That's $2.8 million, and that was a cry out from our manufacturers who are saying, hey, we need technical skills, so we need a workforce to come out. Few people realize that manufacturing jobs make up like 6% of the jobs in Lake County, and that's the highest percentage of any county surrounding us. So that's important as we move forward, and we got the money out of the state to do that. When you look, also growing economically is the impact that the Mineola Turnpike Exchange is going to bring to town. I mean, that has been fast-tracked. That will be coming out of the ground next year. But
completion or groundbreaking?
Actually, we've already broke ground.
Okay.
Just ride down the turnpike and you'll see the bridge that's going in. The intersection is going to change. But important to Lake County from that is not only does it open that up, but we believe that the economic development that's going to account adjacent to that turnpike exchange is going to bring in about 7,500 jobs directly or indirectly and add over $1 billion to our economy.
Is that right?
So we believe that's what we're preparing for, and those are the kind of things that we are seeing throughout the county, because Florida, as we all know, is growing in leaps and bounds, and the key to that is maintaining our quality of life here in Lake County. But by capitalizing on some of that economic development, we help homeowners, because 70% of our revenues come off the backs of homeowners, and if we can help that balance, then that's better for everybody as far as quality of life, spending, public safety, et cetera, as we move forward.
Okay. And, for myself, it makes sense. Yeah, we're putting in a new exit to the turnpike.
Right.
Okay, great. 7,500 jobs.
Right.
Why? Well, there's going to be shops and stores,
right.
and I can, in hindsight, it's the no duh moment. Well, yeah, there's going to be development opening up on that exit and what have you, and then I expect we'll branch out from there. So,
and it's happening at the same time. And you're going to talk about this probably in your next section. Sports and tourism. By keeping our ecotourism going and maintaining clean, safe lakes that you can do, that's why 7 of the 11 top bass fishing lakes are located right here in Lake County.
And we will be talking more about that. As a matter of fact, here in about 2 minutes.
Okay.
So, Commissioner, thank you very much for being our guest today. And we need to take a short break. When we return, we'll be talking with Robert Chandler.
Well,
thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Hi, welcome back to Radio Waves. I'm your host, Kris Poliquin, and you're listening to My 790 AM out of Leesburg, Florida. We're also being seen on Lake Sumter Television, a production of Red Apples Media. So before the break, we were talking with Commissioner Sullivan and talked a lot about the state of the county and some of the programs and things that are coming up within the next year. And now I'd like to welcome our next guest, Mr. Robert Chandler, who's the Director of Economic Growth for Lake County. And I believe you're going to be able to elaborate a little more on some of these programs. But before we get there, welcome. Thank you for coming.
It's great to be here.
Good. Now, so tell us a little bit about your office. What exactly is your role?
Right. Well, we are a department underneath the Board of County Commissioners, obviously, so we are a public agency. And our job really is to do 2 main things. Well, the Economic Growth Department handles planning and zoning, building, as well as economic development and tourism. And that's very intentional because those are the things that control development and control growth in the county. And so you want to make sure that there's some consistency across all three divisions. From the moment you have an idea of what you want to do in this county, going and getting the right land use to accomplish that, getting your permits to actually build it, and then on the back end, making sure you have all that support that you need to keep your business thriving. So they made that move about a year and a half ago now, to join those two departments. It used to be the Department of Growth Management and the Department of Economic Development and Tourism, and looking for those efficiencies and that ability to kind of take economic development and customer service to the next level. They joined the three. So I came from the Economic Development and Tourism side. Now I'm overseeing the entire department. But most of the fun stuff is certainly with Economic Development and Tourism. You can only talk about land use and permits for so long. So.
But permits are so interesting.
So for us, it's Economic Development and Tourism, two kind of distinct divisions or sections that also kind of work together. So the economic development side, it's making sure that the quality of life for the residents of Lake County is where we want it to be. And so you do that through a number of different ways. You make sure that you're bringing in businesses that are going to raise the average wages. You support your existing businesses to make sure that they have the tools they need to be successful, as well as looking at the little things that maybe people don't think about. So workforce, Commissioner Sullivan mentioned the Center for Advanced Manufacturing. That was an initiative that we had a big part in, making sure that the school board, the community colleges, the tech schools, all those folks are working together to ensure that we're putting out the type of skills and the type of labor that our businesses need to thrive. When you look at the challenges in Lake County, workforce and education are two of our bigger challenges. So to ensure that we're doing our part to stay on top of that and support those efforts as much as we can. So everything from like I said, workforce, business recruitment, business retention and expansion, really just being kind of a monitoring what the county is doing, have an understanding of what the business community needs and wants, and what type of regulations is the county putting out, and how can we monitor that to ensure that we're creating a business-friendly environment, creating an environment where businesses want to move here. The last thing you want is to get a reputation of being a place where businesses can't thrive. So one of our biggest goals is to make sure we're doing everything that we can, both at our level of the division, but also from the county-wide perspective, to make sure that Lake County is a great place to do business, and we believe it is.
And what is it you're doing? Like, so what are you, what kind of programs do you have, or incentives do you have to let these outside businesses know this is where you want to be?
Well, really, in today's economic development environment, people, when they say economic development, most people don't really know what that means. They're basically saying, we want the economy to be better. But economic development really runs the gamut. I mean, it's making sure that you have good infrastructure, that you have good schools, that you have good parks. People want to talk about taxes and incentives as the main drivers of economic development, and truthfully, that's not the case anymore. Businesses want to move to places they want to live. And so if you're a CEO, you want to move your business to a place you want to live. So culture, arts, parks, all those things are important. Good roads are important. So it's creating a good balance of having all this quality of life and quality of place factors. You want to make sure those are good. Otherwise, the other stuff doesn't matter.
Right.
So it's really important to do that. So when you look at incentives, currently right now we don't have any tangible incentives. So you might hear about, okay, well, this company's bringing 100 jobs or 1,000 jobs, and the county's going to give them $1 million. We don't have any of those incentives. We're working on some things right now that we can work on, but typically the incentive game, while it's something that you need to play because that's part of the business, in a county like Lake County with limited resources, the incentive game is, we're not going to win many projects based on incentives. When you've got
not monetary incentives.
No, so monetary incentives are going to be tough because you've got other states that are putting hundreds of millions of dollars into projects. Our state budget, the governor tried to put in $250 million, completely wiped out, $0. So when you're competing against hundreds of millions of dollars, or even in Orange County where they can give millions of dollars to a certain project, even on the best day, we can't give that type of money. So we have to win doing other things. And we win by great customer service. We win by creating the right product, making sure you have the right things. So when you look at the product, where are you going to put these businesses, right? So you can't just put it in a field, you have to have the right land use in place. You have to plan for it. So we've got a number of areas where we're looking at to make sure that we're creating the environments and the locations where these businesses are going to want to move. I mentioned earlier workforce being a big problem for us. Product is the other problem. So we just don't have enough buildings right now, and that's a good and a bad thing. It's good because it means all of our buildings are full, but it's bad because new businesses wanting to come in, they can't find the buildings. And with the way that there's so much supply out there, they're okay with going somewhere else where there's an existing building. People don't want to build. Sometimes they want to be in an industrial park, or they want, so you got to make sure you have the right product in place. So when you look at what we have on the horizon, the future is definitely bright for Lake County, as bright as it's been in decades, for sure. You've got Wolf Branch Innovation District in Mount Dora, which is going to be tied in. That's 1,300 acres tied into the new Wekiva Parkway. I mean, that is a game changer for Northeast Lake County. You look at the 470 Commerce Park over in Leesburg, over 3,000 acres that the city of Leesburg owns. They're turning into a light industrial office park. Already have one company in there, Course Lab, that's under construction right now. You look at the Mini Hill interchange that Commissioner Sullivan talked about. I mean, when you look at the critical factors that businesses need, access is one of those. Mini Hill interchange right there on the turnpike, 30 minutes from downtown Orlando, 30 minutes from the airport. These are things that are very attractive to businesses, so that's going to be a big one. And then you've got the Wellness Way project down in South Lake, 15,000 acres that ultimately have the capacity for 12 million square feet of non-residential just across the border from Horizon West. So when you look at product, we're not there right now, but in the next 3 to 5 years, you're going to see the ability for these businesses to look at these different locations and say, okay, that's where we want to be, and that makes a lot of sense from us from a transportation perspective, from an infrastructure perspective, across the board.
Okay. What sector is growing the most?
Well,
do you think, or is there one?
We have 4 targeted industries that we look at from our office, and basically, you want to take your targeted industries based on where is the greatest opportunity for success based on the regional competition, where do we have built-in competitive advantages, where are our strengths. So when we look at those, there's 2 kind of clear-cut top-level ones, and the first is manufacturing. As Commissioner Sullivan mentioned, the percentage of our workforce in manufacturing is about 7%. That's double the state average.
Wow.
Okay, so when you talk about having the workforce here, now what's happening now is they're leaving the county to go get jobs somewhere else. So if we can let the businesses know we have the workforce, they're here. You bring your company here, we'll get you the workforce. They're here.
Right.
When you couple that with the Center for Advanced Manufacturing to increase those skills, even better. Lake County has a long and rich history of manufacturing, which we can continue to build on. Secondly is healthcare life sciences. When you look at 3 hospitals in the county, you talk about what's happening down with the National Training Center and the South Lake Hospital and the cluster that's being built around that, with the active adult communities that we have in this area. I mean, there is a lot of opportunity for healthcare and life sciences. And then the 2 that are kind of a notch below, but still important for Lake County, one would be ag tech. So there's from the agricultural heritage that we have, and a lot of those citrus companies shifted over into more of an ag tech role. We've got a lot of built-in competitive advantages there. And then the final one would be aviation and aerospace. I mean, you look at the Leesburg International Airport, you look at Tavares, America's seaplane city.
Right.
We're starting to build up a name, and it's starting to build up a core foundation for those industries. So now the key is just how do you target those? How do you be more intentional, more specific in your targeting to ensure that you can bring those folks here, those businesses here? And also, how do you put the tools together to get them to come to Lake County?
We are truly a prime location.
Well, there's no question.
Yeah,
I mean,
we've got the land. But are you doing anything to get that word out?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because, I mean, you can do everything.
Sure.
You can sort out the infrastructure.
Well, it's a 2-step process.
I mean,
so
commercials,
if you don't have anything to market, you can't start marketing, right?
Right.
So the first thing for us is to make sure we've got our house in order. So making sure we have the product, the workforce. You get all that, which we've done or we're working on. I mean, that's you're never
constant.
done. But now it's about stepping up your game from a marketing perspective. And so we've got a guy right now, our manager of economic development. He's out in Las Vegas at a trade show, trying to hit up those businesses that we think we could bring here to Lake County. So it's being more targeted. The other side of it, which we haven't mentioned, is tourism, and we manage that $2.5 million bed tax, and our job is to put the right infrastructure in place and to market Lake County as a place that folks want to visit. We're next door to the #1 tourist destination in the entire world,
right?
And that's a unique position to be in. So our job is, how do we get those folks? We're never going to compete with the Mouseers. We know that.
No.
So how do we get folks to they're going to Disney. How do we get them to spend a couple days with us? How do we get them to tack on a few days at the end? How do we get them to come enjoy our lakes and our rolling hills and the trails and all of that? So that's a big part of what we're doing as well, is trying to build up that ecotourism brand. Our brand now for Lake County is Real Florida, Real Close, and that's a very intentional brand because of you get that old school Real Florida feel here. But you're also close to everything you want. You're close to the beaches. You're close to Orlando. You've got, sports down at the Amway Center, whatever the case may be. So a lot going on in Lake County. This is kind of a fascinating stat. From a growth perspective, if we don't do anything, we're looking at over 200,000 people and over 100,000 housing units coming to Lake County in the next 30 years. Think about that number, 300,000 people today. So over a 50% increase in our population over the next 30 years in this county. So the growth is coming.
Right.
Orlando's approaching build-out. Seminole County is approaching build-out. The growth is coming this way. It's already coming this way. So our job is to manage that growth, plan for the growth, and ensure that we're not going to continue to be a bedroom community to Orlando, that we're going to create some of these jobs. We send 60% of our workforce out every single day to another county. Every day, 60% of the people leave Lake County to work.
Because they live here.
They live here, and they couldn't find a job
somewhere else.
So our job growth is the highest in the region right now. We had 4% job growth year over year, the most recent numbers. That's the highest in the region. So that adding those jobs means there's opportunities for our workforce here in Lake County. So we're on the right track. The arrows are all in the right direction.
Sure.
Now the question is, how do we continue to push those jobs forward so we don't become a bedroom community when all these folks move here? We want them to move here and be able to get a job here, and also have the people that are here now get a job.
Right. And that's where a lot of the training will come into place.
Absolutely.
Right? Some of these centers that we're building.
Absolutely.
And things like that. What big programs do you have coming down the road in the next year?
Well, one of the big things on the economic development side is working on that toolkit to make sure that we've got the pieces in place to be able to recruit businesses here. On the tourism side, we're going to make our Hickory Point Beach Volleyball Complex a little bit bigger, and we got a couple other great things on the horizon.
All right. Well, hey, that's all the time we have.
Okay.
We could have gone a whole nother segment. Thank you very much for joining us today, and that concludes our show. So I'd like to thank our listeners. This has been Radio Waves, brought to you by Red Apples Media.